What is up, everybody? How about Cage 261 brought to you by Arena Club and Card Ladder. Fun week of sports cards. I talked to you last week. Weekend of auctions. Thursday had some big sale prices, but even yesterday had some sales prices just in your weekly auctions. Overarching, what I would say is Ohtani stuff still flying. I think people are already baking in that he's going to win the World Series. I think he's still favored to do it. He's got the MVP, and it's just you really are. People who are selling now are selling it to strength. It's one of those things I think about too, because I have some of his cards. I'm like, do I sell some? Do I buy more? Is now really a time to buy more of his stuff? See some other stuff settling. See some soccer stuff settling. I have a feeling that'll pick back up again as the World Cup draws closer. Some of the stuff that was running, hot has cooled off a little bit. I will tell you, I went to card show with my son on Saturday. Hofstra show, not as well attended as it has been previously. It really wasn't advertised that great. I said I would kind of give you a boots on the ground feel at the show. I'm going to give it a pass on the attendance because the big headline autograph was Vlad Guerrero, and obviously he canceled because I saw him the night before, and he's clearly still there. I mean, his son's in the World Series and they're up in Toronto, so you can forgive him for not coming to Hofstra to sign autographs for an hour. That probably cut into the attendance a little bit because he is a pretty big headline guest. So some cool Mets signatures. A listener of the show, you know who you are, was showing me a Mets bat. They got a bunch of more people to sign, probably 20 signatures on Mets signatures on a bat. So that was kind of cool. But yeah, what I would say hot right now, Wemby. Wemby picking back up. Wemby started off this season really, really strong. A lot of blocks, a lot of rebounds, a lot of points. I'd like to say Luka, but he's already hurt. But yeah, a lot of people asking for Wemby. You can see that. I sold a Wemby card myself that I'm sure is going to get flipped pretty soon for more money than what I sold it for. And yeah, the big headline story from last week, and I come on and I want to chat about it for a second because I see a lot of people posting about it. Oh, this guy lost this much money. I saw a Trove do a thing, MK. I saw a bunch of people do posts, and it's part of the fun narrative. And we see all of these record sale price record. This guy made this much. This card's up this much. This card, I bought this for $5 and now it's worth $20 million. And those are a lot easier to see. You don't really see too many losing money on cards. But yeah, a Babe Ruth Baltimore News, a card that I'm very familiar with because I don't know if you guys remember, was one of those collectible fractional cards that I, kind of gave collectible a hard time about when they said it was a record price just because they were fractionalizing it. It sold for, $4 million and change this past week. And you'd like to think, wow, somebody's going to be very excited about a $4 million sale. But, the stories that are being posted and, the reels that are being posted about it is how horrible of a sale that is. And the reason is because that same card previously sold for $7.2 million. So basically somebody bought it, I think it was 2023. Somebody bought it in 2023 and sold it now in 2025, held this card and lost $3 million on it. The crazy part about that is, we're told this is an alternate asset class, right? That, if you buy the right stuff, you buy blue chip assets, they're only going to go up. They're not going to go down. Buy a Honus Wagner. No one's ever lost money on it, although the last sale was pretty darn close. I never liked this Baltimore News card to begin with, but let me throw my hat in the ring here on a little conversation piece. I don't know why no one knew this before, but it's also making the rounds that, auction houses are able to place sort of bids. People are calling them secret reserves, but they're just house bids. This has been going on since the dawn of the auction house. Auction houses are allowed to bid on cards. They're allowed to bid on items. They're allowed to bid up items. It's not a shill bid. It's part of the, their operating area, part of the contract you sign when you're going to bid. A lot of people, I guess didn't know this. Maybe people are new to the hobby or they just, didn't realize that this is something that went on before. There are other things that auction houses do behind the scenes when it comes to big ticket items, right? I mean, you've seen wars for these cards. Like, remember the triple auto, we're going to put a bounty on it, put it in my auction and I'll get you this, and put it in my auction house and I'll give you this, and I'll give it blah, blah, blah. Well, I mean, you may not see it on, on the front page, but, these auctions, they make money based on eyeballs. They make money based on the bids that are in them, and a high ticket, a marquee item brings more items to that auction. So if you're able to sell an item like this Babe Ruth or a Honus Wagner, then what you do is once you have that locked in for an auction, you send out an email, you go to card shows, you send out publicity out there, and you say, look, we're going to have this Honus Wagner, we're going to have this Babe Ruth in our upcoming auction, consign to that auction, because we're going to get more items than we're going to get more eyeballs, we're going to get more bidders, we're going to get more people buying. So there is a value to an auction house in getting this card in. And because of that, auction houses will make deals with the consignor. And it is very, very possible that the auction house that sold this card the last time around, this is REA, and I don't have any inside information with REA, and I don't know whether or not this is done, but I know this does happen. It's very possible that the auction house promised that they would get a certain amount for the card. And if it didn't get bid up that high, the auction house would backstop it. Just like an auction house can place bids. And let me explain what I'm saying. They could have promised to the consignor that $7.2 million was going to be bid on this card. And if it only got bid up to $4 million, $5 million, the auction house would pay the rest. They say, why would anybody do that? That's crazy. Well, if you just do a quick Google to when this thing sold, you'll see that REA's fall auction, which ended on December 3rd, where this item was sold, had almost 100,000 bids placed, generating more than $22 million in sales, the highest in REA's 30-year history at the time. So obviously having a marquee item like this was worth money to them. And while not every item sells for the same amount, some have, buyer's premium, and some also have seller's fees on them. But if you just use the 20% buyer's premium on a $22.1 million auction, that means that they took in about $4.5 million in buyer's premium in that auction. So let's say the card was bid to $4 million and they had to pay 3.2. Still made $1 million and change just in the buyer's premium in that auction, because they got so much other stuff in on the auction because of that card that it set a record for them. Now, I'm not saying this happened. I'm saying it could have happened. And I'm saying it's an explanation as to why a card possibly shows as being sold for this high number, and then the next time it comes up for sale, it sells for less. Now, I'm certain that the person who consigned the card got the 7.2 last time. So there was a full-on 7.2 sale, and somebody did get 7.2. And the person who's got the card now and selling it is only going to get, $4 million. But I'm curious if that person would ever go public about it, what their final bid was, whether they actually bid and paid $7.2 million. I have no inside information about this. I just know it's something that does get done. There are, minimums that are set. There are, deals that are made where, an auction house can say to a consignor, it will get this much. And if it doesn't get that much, we will make sure that you get that much, a minimum bid. I'm certain that happens. Not certain it happened in this instance, but it is a plausible explanation as to why a card of this caliber, a card with this type of provenance, a card that has this type of place. Some people put it in a Mount Rushmore of cards. It's Babe Ruth's most expensive card. It was the most expensive Babe Ruth item ever sold at the time that it was sold. I think it was the second most expensive card ever sold at the time that it was sold. It was a headline grabber. It was an attention grabber. This is one plausible explanation for you as to why you see that drop off. Instead of just saying, hey, it's sold for 7.2 and now it's over 4. The market is collapsing. Everything's going crazy. We're going to see more like this. It's tax loss farming. It's all kinds of stuff. Maybe it's just a simple matter of, an auction house possibly could have set a minimum on it in order to get that card into their auction. And, them taking a business, a calculation and hoping that they would generate more revenue in that auction by having that marquee card in there then, even if they had to backstop it and had to pay for it, they would generate enough buyer's premium to cover it. Just a thought. Again, I have no inside information. REA, I've had those guys on my auction. If you guys want to come on and talk about this, I doubt you will, but if you want to come on and talk about this, you can. I always liked you guys, Mr. Dwyer. You're pretty straight shooters. But even if that's what happened, absolutely nothing wrong with that. I mean, think about it. If you were an auction house, wouldn't you do whatever you needed to do to get an item like this in your auction? Because it opens the floodgates. It brings in $20-something million worth of cards and 100,000 bids. So anyway, just wanted to throw that out there because all morning I'm seeing, posts about, this is horrible for the hobby. Someone lost $3 million on a card. Be careful. The sky is falling, Chicken Little, blah, blah, blah. And I wanted to just, as someone who's been in the space long enough and knows I've actually read, the auction house rules and their terms of service, what goes on behind the scenes. It's very possible that this is the actual explanation for it and not just that somebody lost $3 million. And there's a fun little episode for you guys today, brought to you by Arena Club and Card Ladder. All right, guys, I will check in with you again shortly. Talk to you soon. Let me know what you think. You think this is possible? You think this is what happened, or you just don't care? You can let me know you don't care too. That's fine. Talk to you soon.